Welcome back to the Tam and Barrett UniVersus Super Show. I took a week off to try something new, and it'll never happen again on this channel. My name's Tam. I'm joined here with Barrett, and we're gonna be answering all of your UniVersus questions live on air. So if you have a question you'd like to have, you can either submit it right here on my Twitch by using channel points, and you can submit it that way. Or if you'd rather come and jump on the cast, like a couple of people queued up, you can jump into my Discord, find the Talk with Tam category, ask Tam a question, open up a ticket, and then ask us a question. We'll get you on the show, just like my good buddy Zach has. We're instantly jumping in. There's no warm-up question. This is the warm-up question. So, with that, hello, Zachary. He wasn't ready. He was watching the show, and then it was like, muted. What the hell's going on?
The stream delay, I'm sure, is a killer.
Looks like we might be having some technical difficulties with Mr. Richards.
He was also trying out his new microphone.
Yeah. Okay, dope. That's sick. All right, I will put him back in the waiting room, and we will go to we will go to the titled episode, or title question of the episode, and that is, Barrett, what makes a good combo? I'm here, IDK, while y'all can't hear me.
I mean, Discord wasn't even lighting you up, but
yeah. This is brought to you by your current world champion, Kevin Broberg. It's working now. I think. It's a live show. I don't mind bringing him back. We'll see what's up.
That's fine. We can bring him back.
Hello?
Lighting up for me.
Hey,
it works.
There we are. We're here. We're back in it.
We have the VOD because Tam put your little bubble on the screen. You weren't lighting.
No, I know. I could see it not lighting up for me too. I don't know what was going on. I even switched from my USB mic to my headset, and it didn't change.
So forget Kevin Broberg's question.
Forget Kevin Broberg's question. What a clown.
Hit us with it.
Am I asking the question, or did Tam already ask it?
You asked me a question, yeah.
That's the show.
Oh, I gotta ask it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, Tam, you've made the argument before that backups are cleaner or healthier than assets because you can attack them. There's 20 answers to them in your deck, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
Given that most of the backups that warrant actually dealing with can't be attacked, or it's incredibly unprofitable, it's like Zeke just blows them up and you don't get to do anything with your attack. Attacks are also very limited. They're transient. Do you still think this is true? Does that hold up to scrutiny now that backups have been around for a year? And we've got Elusive, we've got Hanji saying you can't attack the best one in her deck. You've got Zeke sacrificing them.
I love this. I love this as, hey, Tam, put your money where your mouth is. And my answer is, yeah, I think so. I think that the core concept of backups is a better solution to assets than assets. They are non-foundation. They're so strong, you're not allowed to commit them to past checks as a resource. I still want to get rid of assets. If I rub the lamp, if the monkey paw curls, assets are gonna be fine. The only reason that you believe this and the community believes this is because they printed all of these cool interactable pieces and then made a bunch of shit that says they're not interactable anymore.
Well, kind of, right? So, not to Magic the Gathering it up too much, but Planeswalkers and backups have a lot in common.
Sure.
You look at
in the way they play.
Design, right? Yeah. Creatures in Magic are not transient in the way that attacks in UniVersus are.
Sure.
If I have a creature, it's there. It can attack your Planeswalker 4 turns in a row and deal 1 to it until it dies.
Totally.
I can't play the same attack without some shenaniganry. I can't play the same attack at your backup 5 times to make sure it dies.
Yeah. My question for you is, how many creatures are normally inside of your? I'll force you to say the number. 60 card minimum deck.
Depends on the deck.
Fair. I think
Like
from
an aggro deck,
yeah,
probably 40-ish.
40-ish. And then what are the numbers that we're comparing? How many 1/1s are you slinging in your aggro deck?
Probably
And
none. Your creatures are probably like 2 to 5 power,
okay,
and your planeswalkers probably have 4 to 8 loyalty, depending on like what they're doing. I haven't played a lot of Magic recently, so
okay, that's fair. I think
I can
go
chime
ahead.
in. I've been watching a lot of Standard Magic, like actually. My friends are all playing Arena on Discord right now. I've been watching the events that they've been putting on and like looking at the stats and stuff like that. And you ready? There is a deck in Standard right now that does play a very highly competitive Planeswalker, which is the Kaito. Okay, it's the Dimir decks that are playing with Kaito, and yeah, and the reality is that one, I think the numbers that we're slinging around are just kind of wrong. Most decks in Magic, like if you do a 60 card deck, the way that people are like tailoring how many of those are lands in your card, how many of them are creatures, how many of them are instant sorceries, etc., enchantments, whatever, the artificial stuff, the things you can't swing with. And I think that number is a little wrong on 40, like by a lot. And then on top of that, Tam, it is very hard to have this comparison right off the bat because you're allowed to block for your planeswalkers. So like for every creature you have in your deck to swing at my planeswalker, it's a decision you might not make anyway because I can put a blocker in front of it. So like I do think this is an apples to oranges question right off the bat when comparing to planeswalkers.
I was going to bring it up, I promise. Of like,
Yeah.
I think that our numbers are higher with our fleeting attacks, as well as you're not allowed to interact with if I'm trying to target the backup, which is like the point of the backup. Is if I decide to, instead of go face, I decide to target the pink card, I should be, as the aggressor, I should be allowed to do it. That's a choice I make. The only real backups that are seeing play are the backups that are the two main characters that say you're not allowed to interact with doing that. You don't get full choice, or these new elusive backups, which they fully block the first attack you play because you're not allowed to target them, and so it does take that agency away. And those are the only backups that people are really playing.
And that's the thing too, and like I like to bring this up because I think people forget about it, but like Smiling Titan attacks is very closely adjacent to the elusive keyword, right? Hey, your first move has to come into this one, whereas this one is dissuading you to attack it because you have to play the second move to do it, right? So it is kind of like the sideways. And guess what? Smiling Titan attacks in the certain decks that played it and could play it well was fringe competitive, if not actually competitive, when Smiling Titan was really everywhere. Now elusive backups are also in that same category where like they are more susceptible to real backup hate. And oh, by the way, the only real characters that are playing backups right now competitively are the ones that are doing broken things with them. And I'm using the term broken loosely. Like the characters that peak into high echelon competitive play are, spoiler alerts, the characters that bend the rules and always have been.
Yeah.
So the two, because let's be real, the two decks that are, or two characters that are playing with backups right now are bending the rules with them. And even still, they're not unbeatable. And even still, we then have to go through the other conversation of, yes, you're right. There are a cleaner way to deal with backups in general of attacking with them. And these two characters that bend the rules and say, you can't / you shouldn't, they still struggle against actual backup hate. They still struggle against Violent Animus Shot, and they still struggle against things like Devastating Loss. And those are just two of them, but like there are more of them. And you, by the way, asterisks still have the avenue in the game that you're allowed to attack the ones that you are allowed to attack. An says I am allowed to attack your Grishas that are form speed. I'm allowed to swing at those ones.
Here's
allowed
the
to, right?
the,
But
yeah, go ahead.
you're allowed to do it. But so on the grind, Crash Course, whatever, Friday night, I ran Ryu into Justin. In game 2, I did nothing but attack backups. I killed 1.
So this is a product of your. This is victim blaming, and it's just stating fact Please keep it as such. Your deck didn't output enough damage to deal with the damage reduction that his deck had. That's just
Oh yeah, sure. My deck could not output 100 damage on one move for sure.
correct. No, I totally agree. I agree with you. I agree. Hey, handshake. I agree. Your deck did not do that. His deck was able to damage reduce and protect his backups without blocking them.
Yeah, and
here,
so
there's
I
the
think
disconnect of like, oh, the life fire package is very good at protecting their backups, circumventing this blocking mechanic.
well, so I think my point is ultimately like, yes, the decks that are doing good are the ones breaking the rules, but the other decks that splash backups,
Mhm.
so to speak, the pony deck that was playing Kiyomi, your Donnies and your Bishops building in Mechazoids, and they're like are other backups that kind of float around in other decks that are a good part of their strategy, right? Like Kiyomi
Yeah.
is not inconsequential to what those pony decks wanted to do. A lot of the time they weren't worth attacking even then because your attacks are so important to actually ending the game. Progressing
Yeah.
your game plan is so much more important than the minor disruption you hit by actually attacking the backup.
I think
Yes.
the disconnect here. I'm gonna. The disconnect here is you still have the choice, man. Like you still get to make the choice of like, oh, it's inconsequential, but you get to do it, right?
Yeah, it's not
As
like
opposed
Mimic,
to
where
as
Mimic
opposed to,
hits
like
10 assets and you
uh,
don't have an answer to
what
that.
do I
There's
do?
literally in the card pool, find me an answer to getting rid of backup or getting rid of all those assets that matter. Like it
hacking.
doesn't. It's Decay Awaken, by the way, but you don't want to play that card because that card's bad, and we can agree that that card's bad.
You
So
can hacker, you can Lunar Ring, you can.
yeah, and you know, Lunar Ring is an attack that could have been slung at a backup. So the 1-for-1 here that we're talking about is sideways. Well, he's been talking about like Violent Animus Shot, and then your Hacker Extraordinaire is a repeatable piece. That's great, but you have to accumulate the momentum, and so you better have a way of getting momentum versus this DR deck that you already said you were struggling to deal with. So how are you going to connect with any move? But like
Well,
the idea to
Hacker
me is,
answers its own question. Hacker's a crazy
yeah, if
card to
I
begin
start
with.
losing,
Right?
I would agree. Um, but at the same time, like I did a quick UVS Ultra search, and I went, how many people are playing Violent Animus Shot and also have a water character that can play Chinatown? And so this problem that you're running into, and you're like, well, my base 5 damage Violent Animus Shot that I could protect it against this DR. What am I not doing here? And I went and looked at I just looked at the air water characters that exist in the game right now, and I think Jamie is a fine aggro deck that would be pretty good at eating alive these cards and can play Violent Animus Shot just fine. I went and found Asui 3 actually won a regional before, by the way. Didn't know if you remember that. I know Tam does. That character can do it. And I'm not saying these characters are broken top tier competitive characters and they have to answer a bunch of other questions. But I'm saying like the fact is that backups have a built-in mechanic that you're allowed to deal with them. And oh, by the way, against the broken bending the rules characters, maybe we should play the broken bending the rules things that deal with them. The characters that like to play Violent Animus Shot, the Rodans of the world, don't answer the question of what do I do against damage reduction. But if you answer the question of I have an answer that deals with backups, this card is also just incredibly powerful. Oh, and by the way, it's like a silver bullet against some of these backup decks, at least for a turn or two. And just nobody's doing it. I mean, that's reality. And then also, I like what you said too, Jack. I think there is a very real thing that you can have a conversation with. I attacked into Justin's deck, and all I did was attack backups, and I killed one of them the entire game. I think that's going all the way back. Yeah, I think that's a great strategy to try and implement just to what's the word I'm trying to use here? A thought experiment. What happens if I just slung it backups? Does it even make the matchup better? But I think there is still that disconnect on like what Tam was trying to bring up, which is the reality is you shouldn't be attacking every backup. I think there are key moments in every matchup or game to game when attacking a backup is advantageous. When I was commentating games in general, anytime I saw that Zeke character card go sideways, I went, "Oh, I'm allowed to eat your backups alive." Right? Because you're not tenacious. You're not playable while committed. I'm gonna attack your backups, keep you off of them. Yes, I know you can still build them in with your strong pieces, but like I now have your broken rule piece, which was your character. you're not going to be able to use anymore. I get to actually get the real advantage of what comes with attacking backups. And so this attack that is the easiest thing. You ready? Lethal Slashes. I hate this card, but I know people play it. Lethal Slash to me is the prime example of a card to sling at a backup. It wants to be played second, so it's really good against elusive ones, and it's just this dinky little 4-base damage move that doesn't actually help you really win the game. It's just there to clear your card pool out and draw you a card and keep you going, except for the decks that are like putting a ton of stats on it. That's great, but the ponies of before you have Genghis Frog on the board, if I play a Lethal Slash in my card pool, that's like a prime target to send at a backup that I want to deal with just for incremental advantage in their game, because our whole entire game is about incremental advantage. And I just think the reality is people are playing against backup strategies incorrectly, as well as maybe not respecting it enough and playing pieces that they should in their deck that is maybe more susceptible to those strategies. We're talking about Midoriya already. I don't think Midoriya has to play Violent Animus at all, because I don't think Midoriya really cares about that matchup. Right? Hey, I'm going to do my thing, or you're going to do your thing. We'll see who does it first. Obviously, I need to, as the Midoriya player, I care more about how many unyieldings you're going to play against me as I try and get to my in-game state. Me dealing with your backups with Violent Animus shots isn't the fastest way to do that. Is the guard still worth playing? Absolutely. Does it make those matchups easier? Probably. But do you actually care about playing that card? No, because you're just good into that deck already. And I think there are other decks in the game that are just probably good against those matchups in general. It's the ones that struggle against them that have to consider, do I need to play these tools that allow me to get through this extra game plan? Because you're right. Just attacking into them against the strongest competitive versions of these decks isn't good enough. I would agree with that.
So I think my primary concern is like, from the point of the question being like, does the theory hold up in practice? I am not fully convinced that it does. I get what you're saying. Like, there are tools. There's Activate the Coordinate. There's Widow Gas, Web of Fire. I think burns backups. There are like things.
Yeah, I think Swift Execution is a good one that nobody's playing. Just for like the value of what that one gets you when you attack a backup. It's the same reason when people were playing already, when the Tim Keefs of the world were putting in that stupid Gen attack just to attack into their Jaw Titans in the mirror matchup. Right? Isn't that what Ymir decks were doing? That's what he said it was for. He's like, I'm going to play this one attack card in my sideboard. That's when my opponent brings in a Jaw Titan shifted, because that shuts down Ymir as a character. I'm playing this one attack in my deck to sling at a backup. And it was a strong choice.
I think some of that can work. I guess my core concern is like, how disruptive is that to your deck strategy? And
yeah, absolutely.
How much of a hit are you taking to make this happen? Whereas if we compare two assets, which is like Tam's whole thing, right? I'm not necessarily trying to mold about backups. It's comparing.
Yeah.
Like, do backups versus assets. Is this working? Does Tam still believe his original stance? Like, stuff like Hacker, stuff like Luna Ring is progressing your game plan while answering the asset, versus you have to dedicate disrupting your game plan to answer a backup that might not even work.
Let me find a good example.
Somebody pitched Hacker for backups in chat the other night.
Yeah, I think
that's probably too good. That's probably too good because Hacker is fucked, right? Hacker's so good.
We shouldn't have two Hackers in standard. Yeah.
Well, one's going to be gone in 6 months, so.
Yeah, but we're not talking about 6 months. We're talking about right now, and your concerns with backups right now, right?
The cards don't exist right now, so unless you already put it in Guilty Gear, then it doesn't matter. We're talking about
thoughts, Barrett. Anything you'd like to say about this? Here's my big comparison, right? I'm playing, and I'll use character examples. I won't use the very tip-top end because, again, the tip-top end is where we're really bending and breaking this. I'm playing Beast Titan OG, Under the Life Symbol. And I build in a 9 Titans, and I build in Tattered Cape, or Tattered Costume, and I build them both in. One of those, with every attack in your deck, you're allowed to hit. Whether you want to or not, You are allowed to interact with that move, and you can fight me for it. You can punch it, and you can in 2 moves you kill that thing. It's essentially elusive. How many attacks are you playing in your deck right now to interact with my tattered costume?
Hopefully, at least
Depends
one.
on the, depends on the deck, but
It
It's
does.
not
but like,
all of them.
tattered costume might be blank, right? Like tattered costume might not be a card depending on what deck you're playing
true.
against.
Sure.
You might play 0 keyword abilities and 0 actions. You're right.
Yeah, you're right. That was the only one that I could think of off the top of my head that wasn't like a cape or something, right? Or like
The repeatability of like I think
You ready?
Ross
I was
brought it
going
up
to say
in chat.
airy. Let's use airy here, Tam, because
Sure.
fundamentally, the goal of those 2 cards are the same.
Yeah.
Airy says you need 1 more, and I mean the DR effect, at least in this instance of what Nine Titan says, he says you need 1 more. Let's compare those. Airy, fundamentally, you can't attack. It can't be dealt with unless you have a card that says the A word on it. Asset.
That's just not true, right?
I mean, you can deny
For Ares
momentum. I get it.
specifically, you can deny momentum. You can Chinatown it.
In the
You can.
same realm, why you said tattered costume wasn't a good example, I'm using Airy as an example. If I have infinite momentum, but only one of them matters because I can only have 1 Airy, you need a card that says I deal with an A word, period. I get it. It needs a momentum, but I'm just trying to be big picture here. You need an A word.
My question for you, Zach, is how many cards in your deck say that you get rid of momentum? Let's be really modular. It depends on the deck. How many attacks are you playing in your deck? Those all answer backups.
Yeah. Yeah, you already have more.
You don't have 20 pieces of momentum hit. You don't have 20 pieces of the damage reduction to deal with the area or
sure,
the.
do I have
or the
60
other.
pieces of momentum hate because I can just block every attack? If I like in theory, right?
Sure. You can't block for backups.
Well, I'm not going to play a backup if my opponent needs momentum to function, right? That's like their backups have other problems. Right?
That was exactly the reasoning when backups came out. That was exactly correct. You're right, Zach. Remember, everyone was so afraid when backups first came out. They're like, "Oh, this is a shit card type," because my opponent could lock in 0-3 or whatever, whichever the 0 is, 0-2.
Yeah.
And they're allowed to just hit my backup for free, and I'm getting them closer to the win con. Why would I ever do that? Or in your example, I'm giving them momentum. Why would I ever do that? Godzilla exists. Why would I ever want to do that?
That was very annoying.
But then Godzilla's like, why would I waste my 10 damage move attacking your puny backup that doesn't have real card text on it when I could just sling a 10 damage move at your face? And like that was the reality of the world that we lived in because backups and strategies around backups weren't good enough.
Yeah.
And now we are talking about 2 decks, specifically 2 decks. There are others, but we're talking about 2 decks right now. That is not the best strategy 100% of the time against what's going on. Just like how if you were Godzilla and you were playing against somebody that slammed a backup on the table because they were playing Beast Titan, 100% of the time attacking that backup is not the correct decision. But it is a decision. And our whole game is decisions. I mean, competitive card games at its whole is decisions. And I think the idea here is, you're right. Should you feel like you're locked into playing the symbols with the best backup removal because these 2 guys are really, really good? Tournament results say, not really, you're okay. You can still play the other stuff in the format and be like, whatever. Or make a conscious decision now in your deck building at a competitive player. And if I was playing right now, I've told everybody this is no surprise. If I was playing right now, I would be playing Air Pony. And people are like, well, what do you do against the backup decks? And I go, well, Air Pony gets to play Violent Animus Shot, and it doesn't disrupt my strategy very much. That card's just good.
If it's your opener, the only thing you're missing is 2 horn counters and a draw card, but you can get on the next one.
Yeah. If I go, you ready? If I go Hunter's Ally, build my Genghis Frog into Violent Animus Shot, I feel pretty good. Well, what do you do against the DR? I still played the Violent Animus Shot and removed the thing on your stage. And I got your DR tools out of the way, and I fought around if it was elusive, and if you didn't DR it to 0, let's say the backup still lives, but I didn't kill it. If it deals damage, I got a card out of your hand, and I might get a momentum if I'm just poking you that turn. I listed 4 things for my 1 move.
So that
card's playable in 4 symbols.
Let's flip the script and talk about feelings. Should you feel like you're not allowed to play your cool Ryu deck into the field because of how strong it is in that matchup? And the answer is, I don't know, man. Like it like you just have a silver bullet there, right? Like you have kryptonite, and like that
I'm
doesn't
not
feel good
like
for you. But there are so many examples of the cool deck that I want to play, and it's just not good against one of the top 3 decks, so I can't bring it to the tournament.
yeah, I don't know that I don't think that's how I approach tournaments anyway, because I just don't think that's largely true. Like I said, my question was mostly focused around like Tam's stance of how they
Yeah.
fit into the game. And I can maul about backups.
Yeah,
On
and I think
every
at my
show.
core,
Like,
yeah, I think at my
Like-
core, I do agree with what Tam is saying. Like, I think
yeah, that's
at
fair.
their core, I think the backup decks and the backup strategies are not better than, I don't know, the other strategies of more cemented card types and things that UniVersus has been about for 15 years. Because the reality is, and I've said this before, backups are a baby, a little child when in regards of how long they have existed and the concept of them has existed in the game of UniVersus. People are adapting to them still. People are figuring out where the best place for them to exist in. And within this short amount of time, they have been given a dramatic glow up when it comes to playability. And so people are, I'm going to use this word, I don't know if it's a good word, are kind of feeling forced to figure out what the answers to those things are, or joining the crew of playing with them. Right? I think those are the 2 lines that you can approach it, at least at a competitive level. And I think for the people that are struggling to figure out the correct answers in their deck building and or adaptations or strategies against those decks is a big learning curve for some people, and for other people it's whatever. Because I will go all the way back to top 4 of the Louisville Regional, which was 2 backup decks against each other on stream. You have the winner, Calvin Harrigal, playing against Zeke Yeager, the first one from AOT2, which again, by surprise by many people, that deck was good enough to do how well it did, and full disclosure, was playing a bad character. And what most people would say, that character was bad. Because that guy isn't doing the Han Zoe thing of cheating one in, or isn't able to sack them off at enhanced speed. And that deck still had the same amount of success because I think it took advantage of players that didn't know how to play against the strategy. But all of a sudden, in game 3, not game 1, not game 2, in game 3, when Wub changed his gameplay pattern and his strategy to attack the backups when he was in a prime opportunity to do so, because that's what the game presented himself to. He played against the Zeke deck and allowed that game to go to a 6-turn, 7-turn game state, which was exactly where Wub wanted to be. That was not what happened in game 1 and 2. And the way that he changed his strategy and the way that he played around backups, because he respected them and understood what the strategy of the game was, he won that match wholeheartedly because of what he did in that moment and what the game presented himself in that match. That is a top-tier competitive player making a top-tier competitive decision that he probably didn't have to make the entire tournament. But in that one game where it mattered, he figured out what the correct play was, and that's why he won the whole tournament.
I mean, he's okay.
I will
wouldn't-
100% stand by that.
I
would stand by
okay.
that reasoning, because what if he lost that match because he didn't make that adaptation? There's a whole time spiral to go down. I understand. But if he
Great
didn't change
question
that
from Raw
strategy,
Toss. Great question. Sure, but people aren't complaining about Zeke 1. Yeah, that's my point, dude.
yeah,
You're
because
just allowed to
against-
attack his guys.
going back to Zach's question, you're allowed to attack. You're allowed to attack the dudes. The concept of what that deck was doing did it exploited the weakness of backups in that specific deck, because yeah, that no one's complaining about Zeke 1, but 2 of them almost top cutted that event. One of them did and still made a top 4 run.
So what I'm hearing is
yeah, go ahead.
What I'm hearing is that the core point of Tam's thesis,
Mhm.
you both still agree with.
Yes.
I think I've partially been convinced. I'm slightly more on your side than I was before, but there are maybe other problems with a couple of characters or decks that exist.
Totally.
And I think that's a
Totally.
fair conversation because
Super
that's
agree with
exactly
you.
what we're talking about when competitive players get in a room and talk about what they think is good and bad for whatever formats. That is exactly what we're talking about when we talk about the two characters. That's why I prefaced the whole beginning of this was when when the characters are bending the rules with a thing that was probably already in a decent space. That's when we get into the competitive conversation about it, but that's not what your question was about. Your question was, are they healthy because you can attack them? Are they a cleaner card type? Yada yada yada. Back to what Tam's thing was,
Yeah.
and that's why I 100% agree with him because I do think it is a healthier card type for what they are created to do. That doesn't mean you can make a character or a card or support that strategy that can get out of hand, because it happens every time we make asset characters that love
Yeah.
assets. You know it happens every time. And every
Yep.
single time the Cassandras of the world or the Mimics of the world or the what's the other guy? The weirdo. Evil Dead.
Combat Ash.
Yeah, Combat Ash. Don't even get to see the light of day because they were like, well, we're just gonna make this character work really well with this card type. But because that card type has a fundamental flaw in it, it is a problem. And I don't know if I would necessarily put the Han Zoes and Zeke Jaeger War Chief of the problem category right now. They are good and they are competitive strategies, but I would not put them in the Cassandra problem category, if that makes sense. And that is an opinion. I understand. That's a whole separate conversation. But like,
Yeah. I don't want
and
to.
I think it comes fundamentally down to the card type that those characters are based around and the way that the card type was created. I do think is healthier. I do. I just think it's a healthier card type because of what Tam's reasonings are and everything else we talked about.
Hell yeah.
All
I
right,
feel like
Zach.
you've been yapping. You got people waiting. So
I
Okay,
I think it's a
that's the
stopping point.
show, man. This is a
appreciate
good
it.
conversation.
I love
I
it.
think it's
No,
a
I
relevant
appreciate it.
conversation. Yeah, I think it's good.
With that, if you guys want your questions here on the show, make sure that you click that button. Make sure that you either drop them here in the Twitch chat, which we can talk about without you, or come open a ticket in my Discord and we'll talk with you. Zach, any final thoughts before we get you out of here?
No, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
All
I'm
right,
gonna
see you,
catch the VOD later. I gotta go do some other stuff.
Hell
Awesome.
yeah.
He's gonna get mad later. Don't worry. No.
Bye.
Yes, I am.
Thanks, Zach.
Okay, up next we have fan of the show, Libation Mary, coming on to talk a little bit of Guilty Gear stuff. Can't wait! I can't wait for you to answer these questions, Barrett Bryant. He's gonna grill you. I know he is. Hello, hello, hello. What up, buddy?
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm well. I'm swell.
Today.
Hit me with your question, and realize that depending on how you do it, neither or both of us will or won't be able to answer. So I like your second question way better.
Right. So my question is, when it comes to meta changes in universes like Attack on Titan, Vox Machina, and now TMNT, providing a tune and power creeping old sets, does Guilty Gear provide that for universes, especially with the set being smaller?
So I'm gonna adjust your question slightly because it's almost there. How many cards out of Guilty Gear have you seen, Mary?
I have seen none.
You've seen one. There's one on UVS Ultra right now. I've seen, even at the summit, I've seen like 6. So I cannot tell you, looking at 1 to 6 cards, how good the set will be. I just can't do it. There's only one person in this call who has seen every card, and he won't tell us, no matter how much I beg.
True.
So I think a cooler
I like my job too
question
much.
is, this is the first time in years that we have seen an 85 card set. 85 card out of the box set. Mary, what do you think that's going to do to the game in relation to how things get changed and move up? Is 85 enough to maneuver and change the way things work? That's my question to you.
Right. So I guess to all the old retro UVS players, I think they probably see it more as a comfortable set. Like it's in their comfort zone because they're willing to work with that and see how things go from when Guilty Gear gets released compared to the previous sets that have been giving us 300 plus cards or 200 plus cards. I feel like it'll be more in their zone compared to the new players that are getting in. I feel like it's a good range for old players and new players because it's not, I guess, an overload, right? I like if a new player was getting into the first set of Attack on Titan, there's 300 plus cards in there, and they're like, "Oh my God, there's so many characters, there's so many cards. What do I pick? How do I do this?" I feel like it's a good attraction for new players. As to like competitive players, I don't feel like they would be willing to invest that money into such a low card set. I feel like they'll skip it and go into the next set or wait to see what else comes out.
I think I have some notes here that I can say.
Yeah, hit me.
I don't know how much of it I can say, but I think the biggest thing, because I went and pulled up the article that talks about Guilty Gear Strive Blitzbox releases November 28th. So this came out today. This came out today.
Yeah.
New mechanics, what's inside, over 80 cards. I think someone zoomed into that one. I don't know. I don't
It's
know the
on
number.
Ultra. It says 85. I'm pretty sure.
85. Okay. And then they say at the bottom of this article why this set rocks, which is funny if you know Guilty Gear. There's over 80 cards in it. Fan favorite fighters from the art, whatever. Brand new mechanic coming soon. Details to be revealed. Awesome. Debut of Blitzbox product format, and that's what we're kind of focusing on, I think. And then the alt art and chromes go hard. Okay, whatever. So the idea, at least when I read this article, is fundamentally the structure of this set is supposed to be the same of what we're used to, except for the biggest asterisk, which is the set is smaller because the box is smaller.
Yeah.
And I think this might be a direct influence of like the reaction that people had when there was a 300 plus card set. This is the complete 180 of that, right? And I think regardless of what happens to this set, there's a lot to be learned here. And you might be right, Libation. I don't know if it's like, hey, is this going to be more successful or less successful than what the experiment of AOT1 was, not including all the other stuff within the set itself, but just like the set size, because that's kind of what we're talking about. But I think you might be right about like it's smaller, so it's easier for newer players not just to get a hold of all the cards because there's less of them, but it's less, I'm going to use the word, mental load when it comes to looking at everything all at once. I think when it comes down to the question of like, does the set size affect the meta? I think the answer to that has always just been no. I mean, the reality of our game is, and you can look at every set that's come out in the past forever. The competitive players, the top tier echelon players, are going to pick and choose what they believe to be the best cards of the set anyway, and those are the ones they're going to break. Slash make room in their deck because they share a standard card pool with 300 something cards, 400 something cards. I think because of that, everyone has the expectation for any UniVersus set for any player. Some of them are going to be bangers, some of them are going to be very mid, and some of them are going to be unplayable trash. And that is me being honest, right? And I think the reality is that just because the set is smaller doesn't determine, I guess, what that set number, like that set number of cards looks like that will be impactful on the meta. I think it's just dependent on what the card text is, on which cards and which ones they were. I know that when I say we as the commentator crew, revealed that foundation that is on Ultra for anyone that can go look at it, Heaven or Hell, or whatever it's called. There's a lot of shock value to be had, right? It says you get an extra cookie if you get 2 momentum or something. It has a modal effect where you get to choose one or the either, which like the inverse of this exists, right? Like diplomacy, where your opponent gets to pick a thing for you. But like, I don't think there's ever been modal effects in UniVersus of like you get to pick one or the other, and then if you jump through a hoop, you get both cookies. It's on an ultra rare foundation, which historically people don't like, and it's on a 3-diff, which like makes certain amount of cuts. So like looking at one card, is this card going to see play? When you dig into the text and you go, Tam, would you play sack a foundation, tutor an attack from your discard pile that's already in your hand?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And then the
For
other
sure.
side of that coin is mill 5, get a giant Yahtzee effect, right? Depending on what you hit, you get a bunch of stats or whatever.
This has the death symbol, right? You said
No, it has like fire and order or something.
fire and order. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
totally
fire
would.
for mill, right? So I don't know. The question is, man, I don't know. I mean, I do know, but I can't really talk about it. I think it being smaller has one big downside, which is if you really like Guilty Gear, you might be a little upset that it's smaller, because
Yeah.
I think, and I'm not a Guilty Gear player, the amount of characters in the roster and the moves that each character has and the way and how long it's existed for is very vast. And when you hear that there's 80 something cards in the set, you start to maybe worry that your favorite character isn't going to be there, right?
Right.
So I had the we've already had this in UniVersus history before, and it's just Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers. Like
Yeah,
that's just it. It's literally there are 82 cards in this set.
yeah.
There's 83 including or 85 including the promos. I just took and I scrolled and I looked at inside of this set of Street Fighter Darkstalkers, how many cards were meta relevant, whether inside of characters from inside the set or outside of it, and the number that I got to was 46. 46 cards out of this 80 card set were like really, really useful. And that includes like Lord Raptors. All of his attacks are on this list, right? Every single one of them. Even though Sweet Child Chainsaw Music was a one of in that deck sometimes. It was
I think
relevant.
the funniest
It
too,
mattered, right?
for everyone that doesn't know that didn't play during that time, I think that has the highest percentage of character cards within a set be banned.
Banned outright.
Also.
They're just
So-
gone.
I never known that.
Yeah, so like it was not only a tiny set with a small amount of characters inside of them, the majority of them got banned because they were actually so powerful. They didn't get banned on release, by the way. They got banned later when more
Way
tools
later.
came out, but like the point was that there was like this running joke of like, yeah, man, if you're playing one of these Street Fighter versus Darkstalker characters, your deck is way better. And then if they ever got hit, you would still like have a magnifying glass on the rest of them. And you're like, that's a Street Fighter versus Darkstalkers characters. It's probably pretty good.
So here's the reason. Here's the reason. Somehow Kubutu was one of them. Good point, Sam. Here's the reason I like the smaller set. Is I think that the smaller set is gonna let the cards be more focused, and there is a chance. Here's me hoping and praying to the designers that there's less fluff. They don't have the space to put in the draft chaff cards. They're not allowed to exist. It will hopefully get us back to the spot of one of the principles of the game that I grew up with, I learned, which is every card matters. Every card has a place inside of UniVersus.
Feels like a big reset, honestly.
What do you mean?
Like
Reset
a
of
like when AOT 1 came out, for example, like when AOT 1 came out, it came out with so many cards, and there was complaints, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
I feel like the company has taken its feedback, and like I feel like Guilty Gear is just a big reset button to take a step back and just reevaluate all the feedback they have gotten from the previous year and this year. Because Guilty Gear going into next year's pretty much, like, I think is a reset button, because like I said, it brings in new players for the mental load. Old players, because I feel like old players, like I have a lot of retro players in my community,
Mhm.
and they've always just talked about how crazy they think how many cards come in the set. So to me it just feels like they're just taking that feedback and just hitting the reset button, and because the format rotates out within the coming year.
I mean, I think it's tough to have that assumption of like when does the ship turn, strictly because like normally companies plan out things for like a full ass year, and like deciding to do the largest set ever in UniVersus history, and then a year later do one of the smallest sets ever in UniVersus history is like you have to imagine we're still inside the experiment, and we're gonna get more details about it later, right? Like you're not allowed to do that back to back. I can't have a 300 card set follow up on an 85 card set, and us as a consumer have any like real confidence in the product. But like,
Right.
I think that it is there. There is this world where, the experiment for the largest set ever has happened, and we've taken notes on it. And so maybe the unnamed giant, the codenamed giant lizard set at the start of the next year, which could have learned from the AOT ones, right? And so when we look at what this small blitz set does, if it is successful, if it is liked, if it sells well, if it plays well competitively and casually, next year I don't think we're gonna see something as a direct reaction to this. It will be 2 years from now because they've already set up what they're trying to do.
Can I have one final note, and then I think I'm probably done because you guys are having fun speculating.
Yeah.
Live Asian, I'll tell you this. 'Cause I've already said this out loud to people. Guilty Gear is my favorite product that's coming out this year, and I know everything that's in it. But it is my favorite product that's coming out this year, and I am so excited that it is the product that leads us into what most people would believe to be the most competitive event of UniVersus every single year, which is Worlds. I think that's so exciting. Yes, is it a 80 something card set? Absolutely, but I think the things that the design team has done with that product is incredible. And that's even with like a coworker of mine in chat who, you know, made another product this year. I also like that product. And I ranted or I raved about how much I love AOT3. I was telling Tam for a long I was like, I love AOT3. I think that set's so cool. But Guilty Gear is pretty fucking rad. And I don't know anything about the IP. I'm telling you as a UniVersus player, I think that set's pretty fucking rad. So
Right.
take that as you will. Obviously that's without me telling you anything, but like
Of course.
I think there's a bunch of wins here. There's going to be some losses. Obviously, it's a smaller set. If you're a Guilty Gear Die Hair fan, I get
They'll
it.
more than likely be like, "What is this?"
But
think,
well, no, I don't even. No, I don't think that's true. No, no. But I'm saying instead, it's more of like, I'm actually, if I'm a player, because of how small the size of the set is, I'm excited that going into Worlds, I don't have to dish out as much money to get all the cards that I need or want to have or play with. That's a
Correct.
win, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I just think it means like if you want to see a billion cards with Guilty Gear art on it, you're not going to get a billion cards. You're going to get 80 something cards, which is fine, right? But I think there are wins and losses regardless. I think it's a cool experiment. I think it's also kind of smart. Like I think if you're going to make a small set, probably do it during the holiday season because spoiler alert, most people don't have as much money during the holiday season because they're busy doing other things with their lives.
yeah.
So for the tax on a card gamer's wallet, I think this is a really smart set. I just think it's really intelligent. But I could be wrong. People might hate it. I'm not gonna know until people vote with their wallet.
I think the overall answer to this question is it does not matter how large or small the set is. What matters is the context of it. At least that's what my girl friend tells me.
Right. Yeah.
so I,
Because people like if you're invested in Guilty Gear, like just Guilty Gear, not even the game, right? You're gonna buy it
Yeah, the
regardless
IP.
of the IP. You're gonna invest in it as a player. You're gonna invest in it, right? Because you want to see what's in it. I do feel like it's gonna be good. It's just it's just like what's the retrospect on it, I guess. Because
Yeah,
I have a lot
absolutely.
of I have a lot of people. Well, I don't really have a lot of people, but I do have a buddy who's like, "Oh man, I love Guilty Gear," and he's like, "But I heard the set's really small." He's like, "I'm kind of disappointed about that," but he's like, "I'm still gonna buy it." I was like, "Well, just check it out, man. Like, you never know."
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I agree. I mean, you said it. You said at the beginning, and like I'll revoice it. You said it might be pretty good for new players. I think that's an awesome take. I didn't even really think about that. How like the smaller set size might be more inviting to a player that's never played. But you already, I mean, you're right. I mean, the reality of like UniVersus is we attract a lot of our newer players because of the IP grab. This IP grab being one of the first ones in recent history that is smaller for an IP fan to acquire all of the game pieces, that is pretty good for new players. There's a bunch of layers on top of that, like are the mechanics that exist within the set new player friendly? I'm not going to know the answer to that until a new player actually puts their hands on it and gives feedback. But like, I think like there's a bunch of different questions when in reality, they're going to learn very quickly. How is UniVersus the card game at being new player friendly? Because that's a different question. But yeah, you said that off the bat, and I thought, wow, I didn't really think about it that way, but that is kind of appealing, right? I think it then raises some other questions, right? And these are hypothetical for you all. Obviously, I know a little bit more. I think someone might have a question on how is sealed for a smaller set function. How is that going to go? And
Yeah.
there's your brain thought experiment, and
Yeah, that's
there. Yeah, so.
that's the
Yeah.
the real question is what is it going to do to sealed? And the answer is nothing. We don't play sealed. You'll do
No,
it
that's
one
fair too.
time. You'll do it
But
one
when you
time
bring
for
up
your
new
pre-release.
players, when you bring up new players, that might be their first introduction to it, right? Is
Right.
they go buy a sealed pre-release box, and they have to figure out how to play the game at that point. So
Yeah.
I think that's a different question. But you're right. I think it's a good question. The amount of people that are hyped up for Guilty Gear and what I've seen online is awesome. It's actually awesome. I love it, and I know that this is something, even as someone who's been playing UniVersus or UFS for a very long time, people have been asking for this IP for a long ass time, and I to this day still don't know anything really about it. I don't play it. I don't play fighting games, stuff like that. But the amount of people, if you're a Guilty Gear fan and they hear about this set, you learn real quick that they're a Guilty Gear fan because they have a lot to say and they voice how much they love it for sure.
Yeah, of course.
Have we officially answered your question, Mary?
Yeah, I feel pretty good.
Oh yeah, I love that. Final thoughts before I kick you out of here.
No, I don't really got nothing. I just I'll take Barrett's word for it. I'll take your word for it since y'all both have seen everything.
Whoa! I
I
seen
honestly
6 cards, and the six
six
cards that I
cards.
saw
6 cards.
are
Barrett's seen everything.
fucking
Barrett's seen
dope.
everything. But
They're very cool.
Yeah, but
but
I'm also washed up, so take my word as a grain of salt.
uh,
And
uh,
because if you trust me, that might be the first and last time you ever trust a UVS game.
right. Be like, man, this set, I can't believe I wasted my money on it. No,
This is a
no.
dog
Uh,
water.
my final thoughts are actually I do have one final thought on the
Yeah.
previous gentleman that was on the show about backups.
Yeah.
I just feel I completely agree with Barrett. Like, when is it appropriate to attack the backups? Like, that is completely reasonable. Like, if your deck is protained to attack attack the backups for sure. But if your strategy is to like, I have to swing at a backup and then swing at my opponent, definitely just go with that. I would just say like you have to build your deck for one strategy is that you're gonna focus on backups because you never know someone could show up with a backup deck, or you're just gonna swing at your opponent's face. Like there's only just 2 options at this point, and I feel like the better option is to play at least the attack cards that say, hey, you can swing at a backup and swing at those backups, and everything else just swing at the opponent. I feel like backups are a great design. I don't feel like they're overpowered unless we get to that point. Those are my final thoughts.
Love it.
You're right.
Love it. All right, get out of here, kid. With that,
Alright.
thank you so much for the question, man. If you want your question read here on the air live, you can either leave it in the Discord or leave it in the Twitch chat for me and Barrett to read and not be on the show, or come into the Discord and open up a ticket with the Ask Tam a Question. We've got 2 more questions to pop on. One of which I think is going to be a little quick. One of which might be a little bit longer. But then we're done for the night. But our quick
Almost.
question is going to be from our fellow caster from this upcoming weekend, joining
Oh.
me and you is the ace maneuver himself, Sam Tate. Sam, how are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good.
Why are you so quiet?
First time caller.
We love it when people say that. Hell yeah, Sam. What do you got for us, dude?
Well, I just got back from, last set's preview season. I know I'm a little late, but the sky has been falling apparently, and I want to know is this terrible, broken, unscrupulous combo of swooping in plus Toru 2 actually going to top an event, or was everyone losing their minds over nothing?
I think this is the first time we're ever talking about this. So
Yeah.
because nobody's spoiler alert, Sam. Nobody's talking about this. I think they were talking about it. Are people aware of what's going on? I guess. So should we explain the combo first?
Yeah, explain it.
Yeah. So
Okay. So you go ahead, Sam. Just since I know you love the air symbol, and this is your bread and butter right here, I guess.
Yeah, so the swooping in says enhance destroy. It can't be this attack can't be blocked by cards with a block modifier of 3 or greater. And Toru, of course, increases the block mod. And I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure what's really funny about the combo, and I think what's actually going to get something done to it if it ever did show up, is that cards that reduce your block modifier come in too late because it's active player than non-active player. And so even if you try to reduce your block modifier with a card like Genkai's Guidance, it should still see it as an illegal block and kick it out and make the attack unblockable before the rival's effect can even make it blockable. And so that means that the combo is pretty airtight for the most part. There's not a lot of natural counterplay, right? You've got your normal cancels and negates and all that, but people did have very, very strong opinions of this, but then 2 regionals later, no one's talking
Nobody.
about it.
Yeah, I think even like people saw this and they were like, "Oh, this plus Besiege, right, is another one," because people were already playing Besiege. And if you have a fire and an air character that puts a bunch of damage on moves like Byakko, you could play the similar thing. But you're right, in Toru, I think specifically as people are talking about it, can make anything unblockable, right? So the idea here is, what is Toru's other flaw, which is, I think historically, because we have, crazy enough, even seen Toru top cut events, right, and win them, I should say, in the days of old. But I think the problem with Toru has almost kind of always been, as people have like maybe considered Toru as a sideboard character, is that she just takes a little too long when it comes to like getting off the ground and getting damage onto moves. So yes, even if you have a move that is pseudo unblockable, what do you do about it if it's not actually like representing lethal is a different question. But she also just still has a very strong response. I think it's good. Like, I think it's a cool deck. I think the fear that you're seeing people about the sky is falling, like Toru has to run into a bunch of like other things that exist in the format that she maybe isn't ready for. But I don't know. I think even with
What?
TMNT cards, like daily training, be able to like sneak one in because she has the good symbol. Like if you didn't start the turn with one, you could like add one in if you had it in your hand. Like I think stuff like that's kind of cool. I think the question is just like when you stare at like a Godzilla, yeah, you have 4 of these foundations, but how are you gonna deal? How are you gonna go? How are you gonna go through 34 health? As the Toru deck.
I think the other side of this is a lot of squeeze for the same juice you can get with like a more consistent package, right? Like, when you take and use, when I'm Rodan and I've got plus or minus, I've got +4 speed because of a supersonic flight, and then I add a Mondo Gecko on top. I mean, that's +6, +7 speed. That's basically unblockable as well, right? It's just like you're saying that you will try and fail rather than you don't get to try at all, which this unblockable concept just again breaks one of the rules, or one of the principles of UniVersus, where you have agency over the things that your rival gets to do, This says this takes away your agency.
Yeah.
Is it good even though you're taking away the agency? No, I don't think so.
I think my biggest answer to this is that we're already in a world where like resets feel very king, and I feel like they've been king for a while now, and this Toru deck still doesn't answer the question of like how do I kill people through resets?
Yeah.
Because the funniest thing about this, what I really like about this combo is that like there's other characters in the game that do put the word unblockable on things, right? We think of like Mount Lady, who when you hit 10, you can make a thing unblockable, but that has a counter, right? Like cards like Item Box remove the unblockable status. This doesn't actually have the unblockable status, so that's a cool like counterplay. Like, oh, Item Box doesn't answer it, but I would make the argument that Item Box still answers what this deck is trying to do, because when you eventually try and buff up a move and sling it at your opponent, I'm still only going to take the base stats because you made it unblockable. But you do get to play a bunch of like enhanced chicken of like, do you actually press the swooping in for this move, or is it already scary enough? Is Tam right? Like, Toru still has the other line of text on her character, right? Like, hey, it's still a high block mod. If you want to block this move, like you got to deal with it. I think it has legs. I'm not saying a world where it doesn't. I just wonder if the format is just currently in a different space where like she probably still struggles against like hyper aggro decks that don't care about her one commit responsibility. Like, I don't see how she really lives against like the Porcos of the world still, you know?
You could
which
put
is
the
scary.
teaming with the Attack Titan back in their hand, and then they have to play it again.
Neat. I think it's like probably impactful when you like go to bounce their third move. Yeah, that makes sense, and you make them pay for it twice. But the Porco deck will just wait till turn 4 to do it, and yeah, I think they'll be good to go. You know, and like it's not like they're playing fake defense.
Can I submit to the court one new piece of evidence that I don't think people have considered before?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is everyone else here, of course, aware that Toru 2 is a 1A student?
Yes.
She is a 1A student. Yeah.
Yeah.
What card are you? What card
And
are you
so-
alluding to?
And so therefore she would also be a hero 2, is that not correct?
She is a hero too, and has the
She is a
voice
hero
for
too.
it.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about unblockable tasty riffs?
Hell yeah, let's get that card back in rotation.
Now
I'm
we're
in.
cooking.
Yeah.
And
Now
then
we're
the
cooking.
tasty riff, once you have the counters, can build the swooping in for more unblockable tasty riffs, and you draw 3 times every time you hit.
Holy shit, that sounds so sick. My question
I'm
is
kinda
what
in
do you
now.
do after the 12 damage that you've done? Like what then? Like you've done 12. Now what?
I do what any good Samaritan who's played 4 cards on their turn does. I commit my entire stage and I pass my rival and say, "You don't have it."
well, then I guess question
I play
asked,
every
question
card
answered.
in my hand, and then I fold my arms and I do the esports look while my opponent tries to play their whole hand.
I think there's some real sauce there. And I think the cool thing to note here, Sam, is because of the reprint of Toru in Girl Power, even post rotation, this still exists. And I think that's something important to note about Toru specifically, because at least in the current environment with resets and damage reduction, she kind of will struggle in that world because she not only has to find the swooping ends for this concept to work, but if you want to fight against things like damage reduction, you have to also find the Guardian of Chinatowns, which she also can play, which is really great for her in this sort of idea that she's doing. But at this point, we are now like going to like not a 2-card combo, which is attack plus foundation. It is a 3-card, a 4-card, just to answer the normal stuff in the format. It just sounds like a lot. For trying to do base damage moves, unless she got some giant haymaker that I'm just not thinking about that she can play with ease. But at the end of the day, it sounds like a perfect realm of like, bring this to my locals. Here's a 6-hander that gets to do this thing that almost nobody else is doing with this interaction and these cards, and that's a really cool thing to have. It's probably just not like the top tier thing you could be doing right now, and so I just don't think it's not the time yet, Sam.
I do think that there
Maybe
is
someday
like
in the future.
there's probably future is fleeting. There is a slice that she's allowed to carve out here. Like there's some neat stuff that she's allowed to do. Again,
She has a hilarious Deku matchup.
Hulk and Deku won a
True.
regional, right? And so like if you're playing one of
Yeah.
these 3 symbols, you should probably think about putting Toru back in your sideboard. Of just like, hey, you're gonna have to figure out some other way to do it. I'll figure out some other way to do it because my character sucks, but your character is worse. And so like when you look at like Barrett, you brought up Byakko at the very top of this of like make everything. You could tailor your main deck to not have a bunch of extra earth attuned, fire attuned cards and really hone in on the air symbol and sideboard into the Toru when Midoriya tries to just find 38 for free.
That sounds really hard, but
It does
yeah,
sound hard. Yeah,
I don't.
but it's a thing you can do.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's a world cool, yeah, where you could do that. I do like this idea. I think Toru's a really cool character. I think she's always piqued my interest. I think she's just like I've always felt like when I've looked at that character and I've tried that character or I've cited in that character, I've gone, she just feels a little too slow. And if she felt that way when she existed back during like set 4 MHA, set 5 MHA, set 6 MHA, I sure as hell don't think she keeps up right now. But she's cool.
Great question, Sam. That was very fun.
Thank you.
You ready?
Also,
I'm gonna heel turn it. I'm gonna heel turn it. I would play a Jamie aggro 7-hander deck, because they have air and water. And I
Yeah.
would just limit myself on the fire/good cards, obviously, and everything I just said. At least like with Chinatown and playing this card and having access to that. Jamie putting potentially +4/+4 on everything is also pretty good with Tasty Riff. But I just don't have the good symbol, right? So we
Yeah.
have to play the deck like on water, but we play these air tune swooping ends.
That's actually
I'm
really
just saying,
sick.
and maybe you just sideboard the Toru. Just saying, maybe there's a world.
That's kind of dope.
Make it an aggro deck and then heel turn and change the script on your opponent. That sounds kind of funny.
I'm definitely a big fan of sideboard characters. Thank you guys for answering my question. And don't forget Webcam Warrior, September 20th.
That's right. And also don't forget you can see Sam Tate along with Tam and I this weekend as we commentate the Toronto Regional. That is this Saturday and Sunday. So you'll have the 3 of us once again. But thank you, Sam, for your question. It was a fun one. I do like it. I like the Tory stuff.
I'm not gonna do the pitch again. If you guys want to get your questions in, open up a ticket over in the Discord, easy peasy. We've got one last one, and I think this is we talked about him. We bitched about him literally all in the first topic. I can't believe this guy's even allowed to play the game anymore. Your Louisville regional champion, Wub, coming in to ask their question. Wub, hello, how are you? What question you got for us?
Hey, doing well. How are you guys?
Doing
good. Good to
all
hear from you,
right.
bud.
Just so bummed about backups, but well, that's a different topic for a different time. You had a question though.
Yeah. So I noticed this. Actually, Ryan brought this up this week, and I was like, "Whoa, that is a big number." So, rotation sort of started for us, with set 1, and I jotted down the numbers here. I think it's set 1 was 219 cards in total. The rotation after that was 341, and the one coming up this year is 585. The rotation for 2027 is 1,147 cards. And for context, Retro has around 6,100 cards in it in total. So that's about 1/6 of all the cards printed since Sabretooth. That is like an insane number to me. My question is, do we think this will cause some growing pains or problems? Do we think that there might be a reason to look at like alternate formats for people who are losing so many cards, especially as it's essentially doubling this year and then doubling again, right?
I love this question, Rob. I think this is so sick.
This is one of the best questions that we've gotten. Not quite as good as the why is my Toru to you meme dream not gonna top cut, but it's pretty good. And I think that like rotation is so weird because there are so many people who are in this camp of I bought these toys, I want to play with them forever, but it just like doesn't work that way. It
That's
just
not
can't
how
work that
competitive
way.
card games works,
Right.
specifically, right? Unless you play Yu-Gi-Oh, which
True.
because there are some non-rotational games. But even now with like what One Piece and like has their rotation happening now. Obviously like Riftbound out the get-go said that they were going to have a rotation. You're right. I think this is a big change, and I think this is even a bigger deviation from when we started it, right? Because Tam and I came from UFS of old, which was one set in, one set out, which is already a weird way to play rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we came from that, and that was also, again, as we've already talked about earlier today, some of those sets were only like 80 cards, and like they would rotate out other sets like MKX or something that would be something huge sometimes. And we just lived in this world where like because the release calendar was so sporadic, it sometimes felt like you got to play with King of Fighter cards for actually forever. Actually forever, because the release schedule was so sporadic. Now, since the evolution of the game and moving into UVS era, I would say there's a pretty fairly consistent release schedule, at least when it comes to product, except for the thing that you're talking about, which is the beginning of this new era and which sets came out which year. And now with the rotation being a year-based rotation, it is scaling up very rapidly. When set one rotated, we only rotated one set worth of stuff. When this past rotation happened, this past February or March or whatever, whenever Hex came out, we only lost two sets. Obviously, asterisks, DLCs, promos. I understand. And then now coming up with the new rotation that will happen post the first set of 2026, we'll be losing three sets. And I think some people have a very impactful thing to think about here is the three sets that are rotating. Two of the three of them, I think, have pretty relevant cards in them because it's when the design team leveled up what the power level was at the time, right? Set 4, haha, ha ha ha. But set 5 and 6 was a change in the game for most people.
Yeah.
And those cards are now leaving. Now, then you have to raise the question, how many of those cards are currently seeing play? How many of those cards are impactful for what's going on right now? I don't know. But then I think that leads into the next question you had, or the next part of it you said was, okay, but what about the first set of 2027? Over 1,000 cards are going to rotate because, spoiler alert, the amount of products that came out for UniVersus in 2024 was the highest I think it's ever been. And based off what you just said, Webb, it is. That is going to change a lot. Also, spoiler alert, a lot of the cards that people are talking about in chat right now that they have problems with also come out in that year. So I think it's going to be a big change. And the question of what is rotation going to do to the game, I think there's going to be the biggest shift on how players adapt to new formats that we've ever seen. Not just at the beginning of next year, but at the beginning of 2027. Like, it's going to be night and day of what people are doing and what they are focusing on, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Comparatively to the past couple of years when we've had rotation. Because, like, I don't know about you, but after the rotation happened for this past Worlds, yeah, we lost set 2 and 3, but how many people were playing set 2 and set 3 cards? The big hubbub was like, oh, Chaos lost all their zero diffs, and we're still seeing plenty of success for Chaos, right? Like, it didn't actually do anything to the grand scheme, right? Like, let's be real. And like the problematic card that people were already talking about, which was Twisting Azure Inferno, or whatever, Twisting Azure Nightmare, whatever the card was called. That card had already gotten hit prior to that point, so he got an early rotation. And then also remember, Recovery Girl also got errated going into that, and so they're like, well, the two biggest problem cards that were gonna rotate, now they've actually rotated, and we feel like nothing has actually shifted. So, what is it going to do to the game? I think it is going to be one of the biggest wild card shakeup sections of the game that it's ever seen, which could be bad, it could be good, depending on what the players do. And I think people are going to obviously gravitate what they believe to be is comfortable when that happens, like people normally do. So again, without having any concept, yes, we have to talk about how many cards are leaving Web, but you have to also relate that into the context of the cards you're also acquiring when that happens. So in the context of this past year, because it's recency bias, we acquired Critical Role, and people thought Denver maybe would have more representation of those cards, but even not everybody was playing Sweeping Daggers yet. Everybody knew that card was broken, but like not everybody was playing Sweeping Daggers when they probably could have. But the other shock value that happened in that same time frame was the release of Nick Reagan and Mitchell Chimino. So I think that had like such a bigger showcase on it, because not only was it a comfort of a new format, but one of the most premier aggro decks that we saw. And aggro is very comfortable on a brand new format, right? It's, like most people always say. So you had this like perfect storm of Nick Reagan being a very strong aggro deck, and it didn't really care about any of the stuff that rotated, because there's plenty of cards with enhances on them that we could use for this character card. It very much like smoothed out the process of that rotation. Oh, and then still, by the way, the first two characters that actually ended up winning those events were your tried and true characters that we didn't already knew that were good and reliable, King Ghidorah and Rodan, right? So I think there is going to be a similar shape probably as we move into upcoming first set of 2026, and then what the beginning of 2027 looks like. I think the 2027 one is going to be way bigger than what we're talking about for the upcoming one. And I'm excited for it. I don't know about the rest of people's sentiments, and as you've brought this question up, people are now having it in the front of their heads. They're like, "Oh crap, I've only got." It's like John Cena's on his farewell tour right now for everybody who's WWE, and it's like you're actually counting down the days now of like, "Oh, I actually only get to play with these cards for this amount of time now." And then
Yeah.
we're gonna enter that time frame of there are going to be a non-zero amount of worlds, because we talk about this every time that Worlds comes up. There will be a non-zero amount of players that go to Worlds and want to play with the toys that they're not going to have access to anymore. There will be those players. Are they going to win the whole thing? I don't know. Maybe their goal isn't to win. And then you're going to have the other side of the players of like, well, I'm going to play what's the best thing right now. Because if it is the best thing, is it because of a card that I might be losing, or is it just the best thing and we don't have to worry about it, right? Because like I think the argument could be had, and I'm sure a bunch of people are already thinking about this. Well, all these other things that we're talking about right now, these backup decks, the only reason why they're good right now is because, spoiler alert, it's a brand new mechanic, it's a brand new card type, and it won't rotate at all. So what's going to happen to that strategy is that strength just going to ease us into a transition of like, hey, this is a powerful thing that's happening right now, even with 3 sets rotating, because we didn't really care about most of those cards anyway for this new strategy, because we still have all our AOT sets or whatever and backup support. Is it going to be an easier transition? Probably for a certain amount of people, but there will be a certain amount of other people that are losing pieces they don't know what to replace with. I think somebody talked about Titan Cliff the other day.
Hawks.
Hawks in general. That's a great one.
Yeah, we're just
Mimic
losing
in
Ryan
general.
to play.
Yeah.
Ryan to the game.
Yeah, Mimic-
totally. That sucks.
Yeah, Mimic in general, right? Like Calvin Tahan. What's he gonna do when Amajiki leaves? What's he gonna do? Like,
Oh,
is he gonna go
Godzilla,
back to?
yeah.
Actually, it'll be Godzilla, but like, he won't.
He's got to
even
get
have
rid of
the
those
option to
chromes
say-
right away, man. Those Chimera Krakens, he's got to move them.
Yeah, that's Cyber Chimera Kraken gone.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like, so like people will have to adjust, people will have to adapt, but like, I mean, the reality is that people will, and people will figure it out, and it'll be fine. But I love this conversation because I love the thought experiment of people looking so far ahead, and I think it's a little weird because I'm here because like I do know what it looks like. At least I have an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I love this stuff, man. I love it so much.
Man, I'm just going to scroll back through memory lane of like cards that we are or aren't playing. Like, how many copies of Lost in Thought have like been registered in the past 6-9 months?
I think it was Recovery Girl. Was playing it.
Yeah,
that's
it.
Because it was impactful.
Yeah, just like looking back and seeing like what cards have like moved in or out. Man, losing Desperate Struggle I think is going to be like a big deal, if not replaced. Right? Like if you thought Midoriya was one shotting you now, this card is a bit of a get out of jail free card that was non-unique that you could slam 2 of them in your stage and go. You got to figure your shit out.
I mean, someone already brought it up, right? Doesn't Hacker rotate?
Hacker rotates. Runaway rotates.
Barrier Shield as well.
Barrier Shield rotates.
Yeah, Barrier Shield. Holy cow. Yeah,
So then the world is like, oh, Rodan's still a character, but what is Rodan without a Barrier Shield existing? Like, yeah, it's you still have the minus speed on the character, but it's like, wow, this crazy get out of jail free card doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's such a cool conversation, and like, where people actually put the characters and the ones that are still around, as well as the new toys that come in. Like, people take a look at them again and be like, okay, well, we have to completely reassess where they exist on the pyramid of how powerful they are. Because, like, at the same time, I'm on the opposite side of that conversation, which is like, well, what is still legal? Well, all those Yu Yu Hakusho characters are still legal, and they're pretty good. You know, like Elder Togoro's pretty good, and he tutors from your discard pile, and now he doesn't compete that space with Mimic anymore. You know, like he just grabs a thing. So it's like that weird category. So even like characters that use specific tools from cards or people beforehand, they lose those tools. I think about how like Godzilla decks putting Gently Theft in their deck. And that's a very impactful kind of finisher, no resources, play a flash move, and has a good momentum use ability. That is no longer a resource that you can play and that you would benefit from playing Chaos Godzilla anymore. Is there a real reason why other symbols or other strategies of characters go up in stock?
Yeah, I think it's kind of spooky from a retaining my friends who enjoy the game perspective, because I think for a lot of people this will be their first like actual rotation, especially if they weren't here for MHA01 rotating.
Yeah.
Because the second year didn't feel like much rotated, like you said. So this one will feel pretty big, and then the 2027 one is just going to be massive.
I think in that same thought process, we have a buddy of ours that doesn't really play the game anymore, but like MHA was a big pool for a lot of players in our game that are currently playing to this day. And once this next rotation happens, you will only have a singular set of My Hero cards available in the card pool and a deck.
Yep.
And it no longer looks like the MHA card game anymore.
It's an AOT card game.
It is the AOT card game.
The Godzilla card game.
The Godzilla
The
card game.
Godzilla card game.
To your friends, here's the message that I would give them. Of, it is exciting. Like part of the reason that rotation is a good thing is that it is this massive, we've put the puzzle pieces on the puzzle. When you take and you mash the puzzle back up, put it in the box and shake it, it then becomes a new puzzle for you to solve. Albeit there are less distinct pieces, but they are differently shaped pieces that you have to go and find it. And so like the thing that they're afraid of is not like solving the problem, but it is that they're not going to like the picture that they find. And it's the goal of the designers to make a good picture, i.e. to make the good game so that they want to go and find the puzzle.
I bring up a sentiment that I think you talked about yesterday, or someone talked about. Maybe it was in Discord. I don't know what it was, but I think the current sentiment of what people feel about the format right now, because I think this relates to it, is I think a lot of people would use the word boring, right? Is that it's not that there aren't a bunch of strategies. It's just like the strategies that people are playing can create these kind of not enjoyable play experiences. That's to say that are boring at a competitive level, but one step below competitive, it is exciting and it's very broad and yada yada yada, right? That's what I think was being talked about. And I think the idea here is that rotation creates that same question of like, it's really hard to find it boring because everyone has to reset. Normally on a set release, you could have players that are like, oh, I just don't care about these cards or whatever. But on rotation, it's not about just the addition of new cards. It's the subtraction of things that they were already comfortable with, and you must make them go out of their comfort zone. And that is exciting to some people. It's also dissuasive to some.
I think the big thing to talk about when it comes to, or one of the big things to talk about when it comes to rotation, is the fact that all of the cards that will be rotating for this cycle will all be circle symbol cards, and we printed a bunch of sets without a bunch of symbols. The good symbol will just cease to exist if Guilty Gear does not come in and save it. The good symbol does not do enough in Turtles to make it a real symbol. I don't think the all symbol does enough to make it a real symbol. I think you can squeeze water out of the Turtles plus Heroes of Exandria set, but like, man, there's so many triple symboled cards that are just disappearing from the standard game. If you thought it was the Chaos, Death, Life, Fire, Order, Air game before, get rid of all these cards with all these extra symbols on it, and you're gonna feel it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of scary looking at, but I also know personally that there are a lot of exciting game pieces that we have not seen yet that will be in the picture when we're actually dealing with losing these cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think when you first evaluate it, it's hard to think about that part of it and you just think about what you're losing, right? But I'm also not someone who ties myself that tightly to one character, whereas people who do, it's very hard when they lose the ability to play that.
I mean,
Well,
the
that-
reality will, because we'll glaze you a little bit. It's not just one character, but it's also not just attached to one strategy, right? Like, I mean, we have seen you play the Rodans, we've seen you play the Nick Reagans, we've seen you now play the backup strategy decks, right? So like, it's not just the character necessarily, but it's multiple cards, multiple strategies, doing different things, solving different puzzles. And so something like this to like a player like you isn't something as scary as the casual player that they came in and I don't know what's a good example. They came in and Amajiki was their favorite character, and Amajiki does a very specific thing about having face-up momentum. And when Amajiki rotates and all the support of Amajiki rotates, where does that player go to find another character that does face-up momentum things? And the answer is they don't exist, right? Like, so what do you tell that player when it comes to sharing and finding a new strategy for them to take on when they played with comfort for 3 years now? And that is a harder question for some people.
I mean, this is strictly a we play a leader based, character based game. That like if you would have told somebody that the first time ever that Izuku Midoriya from the My Hero Academia collectible card game won a regional was 2 weeks ago, they'd have been like, what the fuck happened? Like, when your guy's not good in the game, it makes you not want to play. And so rotation is that same idea. It's not that your guy's not good, he's just not playable. So this then pulls up to the second part of the question you have of, should there be an in-between format? Should the heroic format exist? And I mean, there's a real stance for it now that we've got 4 things that are rotated, right? Or 5 things, right? No, 6?
Yeah.
Is it 6?
It
It's
will
6.
be 5.
It's
6 things.
it's 6 things with Jet Burn. So with 6 sets having rotated, there's a world where heroic, I think, could exist as a game. I'm gonna pretend that I'm talking to Barrett, my friend, and not Barrett Bryant, the UVS Games employee. I don't think that UVS Games can handle that. They can't make retro work. What makes you think they're gonna? It's the monkey paw curls, Wub. Would you rather play in a world with heroic and it's done right, and then UVS Games never ever ever attempts retro ever again? They just
honestly
shoot it. They go out back and shoot it.
I think so. A big pain point of retro is I find something cool and there's 8 copies of this card in circulation, and I can give the deck to one other person. With heroic, MHA01, there's thousands of copies of these cards. You know, it's so easy to like go get frigid heat waves or whatever you want, and that, you know, I think the card pool is there to support it. Whereas retro, I don't think it is.
I think that is a fair reasoning on why the appeal of one format or one thing versus the other, 100%. And I think the other thing too, it goes back to like my last point, I guess, on the previous part of this, which was for every one of the players that are going to Worlds and participating in Worlds and prepping their deck for that last format or whatever, right? There is another person who is already thinking ahead and thinking about the cards that they're losing, right? And that's without that information of what new cards they're gaining, because of what you said earlier of like, it's much easier to look at all the cards you're losing without knowing the full picture of what other cards you're gaining. Because if you thought about it right now, which is what we're talking about, you don't know the Guilty Gear stuff, and you don't know the first set of 2026, but you do know all the sets you're losing. Yeah, and so you are losing, 3 sets worth of stuff, and it's really easy to look at your bucket of trash. I say trash, it's not trash, but like stuff you're Andy dropping Woody on the ground of like, I don't want to play with you anymore. Not because I don't want to, because I can't. And you don't even know what's in the new shiny box under the Christmas tree yet. So and that is going to be a reason why people are going to have certain opinions of, like what Tam said, symbols or strategies or whatever going into those new formats in that new world. And I think you're right, Tam. I think it raises a very real question about, like, is there a world where opening up the invitation to play different formats of this game mean a lot more? I know heroic is pretty appealing to people, but to me, at least after this upcoming rotation, the heroic format is still just kind of looking at MHA Spotlight. Because again, the only sets that are rotated in this new era where heroic is applicable to is still only MHA cards, right?
Yeah.
So like you
It could
just,
be another year out, right? But there's
Yeah.
certainly a very strong case for it, especially as you get to 2027.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a very real conversation to have. And I think your stance on it, Webb, of like the availability of cards is a very real reason to support that format over things like retro.
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Side tangent when it comes to retro. I think that there's a real world where retro becomes a commander style deck building restraint because of the inherent lack of cards. Me having to pick up a
cool.
singular copy of Trinity Geyser is like not that big of a deal when as opposed to I need fucking 4 of them things.
And I even wonder too. That's a cool question to ask, because I think even in a singleton format, like you're like, oh, UniVersus isn't very good for singleton formats because we check cards and yada yada yada. But when you open the card pool as big as it is in retro, on how many things you can find that pick up a thing in your discard pile or search your deck for a thing or whatever, insert thing, you could probably get around it, right?
I think you can. It just like shoots some characters like Hasenko or like or not. Sorry, Hasenko thrives. Lilith
Benefits.
1 suffers. I get plus
Yes.
X speed plus 1 for each copy of this card in my card pool. Even things we printed now with like Leo's Concern or whatever, I get plus X plus 1 for the cards in my discard pile. Yeah, man, those ones suck. Sorry, there's nothing I can
And
do
that's
about
no
it.
different than the giant Magic card pool. That's like, yeah, this card sucks in Commander. Like it's
Yeah.
just bad in Commander, you know.
Yeah.
And then vice versa, there are cards that are tailor made for the format or whatever. It's a cool idea.
Yeah, I dig it. But we'll see.
I will say on heroic, just one last thing, that it is sort of MHA Spotlight, the format quote right now, but the fact that you can take a new character that just came out in Turtles, for example, and be like,
Yes.
I want Electric Jolt in this character. That's like a neat thing that you can do right now.
I think the coolest appeal, again, not just the card accessibility for heroic, is your standard legal deck still feels pretty competitive
Yes,
in the
that
world.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yes, don't get me wrong. Like, Giro 1 sucks to play against. Like, if you go play, for everyone who has played MHA Spotlight, and you sit across from the guy that actually just brings a competitive Giro deck that actually gets to play with girl power cards, it's miserable. It's actually miserable. Yeah, because that deck was already crazy broken, and now it has even better tools, and you're over here like, I just wanted to play Kuragiri or something. And you're like, this isn't fair. I get
We
it.
actually had a conversation about this, if Giro would be better than these current decks in Standard, and I'm not entirely convinced, which is crazy
Yeah.
to think about.
Well,
But
it is interesting, yeah, because of the keyword restriction and stuff like that, and you know
Yeah.
you have to play a 2 check, but like that mattered more, I guess back then. 100, yeah, I get it. But heroic has an idea regardless. You're 100% right. Like if I lock in my new character that I got out of the new set, because it is closer, at least when it comes to like design philosophies, they do still feel closer to each other than sometimes if I go play a retro character versus the characters of today, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like Jiro sitting across from the table versus a Lord Raptor is a completely different experience than Jiro sitting adjacent to Jin.
Yeah. Looking at Lightning Rod Jiro.
I'm sure
Yeah,
Mitch has done it.
Yeah, pardon me.
We'll talk about it.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
You know-
but I think it's a cool idea. I think the idea of supporting extra formats is always good. I mean, I'm a big fan of it. Tam and I have talked about it. Of just like only having one way to play our game is not a positive, obviously. And as rotation is a real question, and people, I mean, we're card gamers. We want our pieces to be playable. That we don't want to shove them in a box and forget about them forever. Like,
Yeah.
and it's, and you know, it is, it if I taking the hat off. If I was playing, obviously, right now, and this is not the case because I'm a competitive card gamer and I understand that's how the system works, but like when rotation happens and you go put your cards in a box and you don't look at them ever again, you stare at that box and you have a self-reflection moment and you're like, am I okay with doing this to myself every year?
Yeah.
Like that's a real question that
Yeah.
as a card gamer, as a hobbyer, you have to be okay with if you play the
Mhm.
game competitively. But people 100% ask themselves that question every time that something like this happens. And obviously the people that value the game and the experience and what joy it brings them, they're like, yeah, absolutely, it's worth it. You know, but there are some people out there that's like competitive card games. Ew, yuck. Commander is all I'll ever do because every card I buy in Commander will always matter.
Which I get, right? Like taking it into the another nerd culture space. When Street Fighter 6 came out, all the people who bought Street Fighter 5 were like, "Ah, fuck."
Fuck, yeah.
I gotta go
Every
play the
time a new
next one.
Smash game comes out.
Yeah, fuck, I
Right?
gotta go buy the next one.
I remember when the man, what console was that at the time? Yeah, when the first Switch Smash, right? When that came out, was that what it was? Was it Ultimate?
Ultimate was on. Ultimate is
Wii?
on the Switch.
Okay,
Smash
Ultimate.
4
Yeah.
was on the Wii U. Smash Ultimate is the one we currently are playing. So be careful with your analogy. You might miss.
Okay. So Ultimate, the
Yes.
most recent Smash game.
Yes.
I remember when that game came out and people were like, "Oh, I have to change."
Yes.
When the reality is, well, people go play the fucking GameCube one anyway. Like, like you don't have to. You can you will find a crew of somebody that will go do it. But that is that like adjacent nerd culture thing, right? Of like,
But
A little
people are
tougher
like,
for
I don't-
UVS, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
follow.
But like, I don't want to play the Switch one, not competitively at least.
My point being though, in order for you to get that new one, it was a $70 investment plus the console for $300, which you can play and buy a bunch of other games, rather than I spend $500 every 4 months, every 3 months getting a case of product plus getting my singles, to then in 2 years say that this, $1,000 is just gone. It's just it doesn't exist.
Or
And
specifically,
console
worth
cycles
significantly less.
aren't 2 years. They're 10. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is all three of us here talking, most people watching. If you're an indoctrined card game player, you just understand that's how it works.
That's how it works.
Just how it works.
Yeah. I do think with
yeah.
this coming year, we'll feel a lot more pressure for that kind of alternate format, and it'll definitely reach a peak at some point. I think people are starting to think about it now. I mean, I just noticed, but I think it will kind of build.
I think what you just said about how in 2027 over 1,000 cards rotate, I think that's for sure like a tipping point, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, currently in retro, you said there were 6,000 something cards. That's already including those 1,000.
Yeah.
I think that's a big point. I think that is fair because I think that goes all the way back to what Tam said. When you do, as the player base, reassess of what the new puzzle looks like, you have to also then ask yourself the question of like, do I like how this new puzzle looks?
Yeah.
And if they're like, no, those players will want to gravitate towards a secondary type of way of playing so that they can look at a puzzle that they do enjoy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Final thoughts, buddy?
Nah, thanks for having me on.
Welcome.
Thanks for coming on, man.
It's
Yeah,
one
no
of
You'll be in Canada this weekend, right?
Yep.
I loved this
Looking forward
question
to
because it wasn't
seeing
about the metagame. It was sick. Truthfully, like it's very easy to have like tip of the iceberg questions, and those are good questions. Please, everybody, don't stop sending those. But this was certainly a little bit deeper of a question. It was dope. It was very cool.
It is self-reflective too,
Yeah.
As I look at my 2 5 rows that are on my desk, and I go, "Are you worth it? Are you worth it?" Every time I look at you, and I know in a year or two I can't play with you anymore.
I have run out of deck boxes, so my set 1 stuff is on the shelf over there.
Oh no!
I threw away so much bulk a week ago. It felt so good. It felt so good.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I
I'm not
can't let
joking.
go.
Like no. For me, it's like I have back when I was buying product, I would buy I bought a bunch of sealed Cowboy Bebop and Mortal Kombat X, and I opened them up and I sold cards back in the time,
Hmm.
and I was like, I just don't need you anymore. Like, I don't play retro. These are pretty decently to get a hold of. They're not worth anything. And I was like, see ya. And I took them all out. Threw them
Dang.
away.
Wub's pissed that you threw away retro cards. I can feel it.
I kept the good ones. I kept the Cage Fighters. I kept the Empress of the Netherrealm or whatever. You know,
Oh,
That is a
Flip
good
minus.
one, yeah.
That's one of the
That's,
good
a good,
ones.
that's just a good one. That's a comment or a comment. I go, I'm gonna keep that one. You know, I kept all the Dreaming of Becoming Wholes. Like, I kept the good ones, guys. But like, insert trash, uncommon, common that was in every character's kit. I kept 4 and I threw the rest away because I had a billion of them.
Yeah. All
All
right, Wub.
So
Get out of here. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. See you guys later.
thanks.
Bye.
Bye. With that, that's the show, everybody. If you're catching this on YouTube later, if you're not currently watching us live, why not? Come join us every Thursday, asterisk, on twitch.tv/TamCardwell and youtube.tv/TamCardwell to get all of your Tam and Barrett UniVersus Super Show wants and needs. If you have a question you want submitted, please do so via the Discord and the ticket system. If you don't know how that works, please ask a mod, or ask me at me in one of the general chats, and I'll help you out. And if we missed your question, I apologize. It's just how the show works. We've already been recording for an hour and 40 minutes. And we have a second thing that we're trying to do after this. So with that,
It doesn't mean we won't do your question next time if you resubmit it.
That's true.
Because recency is key.
we didn't even bother with Kevin's question, which we will save for
Right.
next time if we don't have
We
questions.
can save for whenever.
So with that, thank you all for hanging out. We will catch you all next time. Go everybody. Bye.